May 9th, Derek Carr.
Saying you're sorry can heal the wounded. Showing you're sorry can change a life. You're not the man I thought you were. Those words, more than any others, changed the life of Derek Carr. Keep in mind, this is a man who had heard his name after the phrase, "With the 36th overall pick in the NFL draft, the Oakland Raiders have selected." While at Fresno State, Carr had lived the proverbial big man on campus life. As his talents rose on the field, the demand for his attention rose off the field. Parties, clubs, girls, everybody wanted some of Carr's time, and he was more than happy to give it. He spent his days talking about how important his faith in God was and how Jesus had changed his life. But his nights were filled with living in the opposite direction. Heather, a friend who had just recently become more than a friend and would one day become his wife, remembers that time. She said, "He would say one thing but act the opposite way. He was talking about God and how much he loved God. And then I would see him going to the parties and hanging out with girls." After she had seen enough of Carr's double life, she wrote him a letter. A page and a half of describing the behavior she saw and begging for a change. In it, she told him, "You're not the man I thought you were." "That's what God used to grab my attention to live for him," Carr said. "After living both ways, I'll never go back." From that moment on, fueled with the kind of determination he once reserved for football, Derek hurled himself down a path to make things right. He found Heather and begged for her forgiveness. With tear-stained cheeks, he thanked her for caring enough to be honest with him and wanting the best for him. Once that relationship was healed, he turned his attention to the group of men who had been put under his leadership, his teammates. Sitting in the locker room in Oxford, Mississippi, minutes before a big game against the Ole Miss Rebels, the entire Fresno State Bulldogs were focusing in on the game that lay ahead. That is, everyone but Carr. He only had one thing on his mind: confession. He stood and gathered the attention of his teammates. He spoke about foolish choices, being a Christian who wasn't living like one, failures he wished he could take back. He admitted all of his mistakes and humbled himself before the team and asked for their forgiveness. He finished his speech by echoing Paul's words from 1 Corinthians. "I am a Christian. Watch how I live my life now." James 5:16 says, "Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed." Who do you need to ask for forgiveness today? Don't wait to ask. Just go ahead and do it right now. Saying you're sorry can heal the wounded. Showing you're sorry can change a life.
Fellas, my name is Justin Brown, lieutenant with the Aurora Fire Rescue out of Aurora, Colorado. I'm a husband to a wonderful wife and a father to 2 children. And today is May 9th, and I am reviewing the story of Derek Carr. Derek Carr and I are pretty similar. We both played ball back in Texas, and we both lived lives that was not edifying to Christ. My story went along the lines that I placed different idols before God, as Derek Carr did. Live one life throughout the daytime and then another totally different life at night. And I had to come to a conclusion that that was not the right way to live life. I had to get my priorities straight, and that's to keep God first in my life. In trying to attain fame and glory through football and through other accolades, I ended up losing out on many of those things due to my priorities in my life. In Matthew 6:24 it says, "No one can serve 2 masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. No one can serve both God and money. I had to come to that conclusion. I was serving other things, doing the night, partying, putting football and my training before God. And I had to come to the conclusion that that was not where God wanted me to be. That's not the position He wanted to be in my life. He wanted all of me. He wanted to be first in my life. And that's what I had to do, was to give Him first position in my life. My challenge to you today is, if you're putting other things before Christ as idols before Him, I ask you to take an assessment and figure out what those idols are. And if you're not putting Christ first, I challenge you to put those idols aside and focus on Christ and see what type of blessings He will bestow upon you. God bless.